Give me one of these. Give me the claw. Yeah. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Close Up. I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm Ryan.
Today, we're going to be reviewing The Iron Claw. Full spoilers ahead for the movie. You've been warned. Zooming into our medium shot now from our extreme long shot. Tell me, Ryan, what were your anticipation levels like going into The Iron Claw?
My anticipations were, this is a wrestling movie. I don't know anything about wrestling. I actually don't like wrestling whatsoever. I think it's just a bunch of very sweaty men on steroids throwing themselves into each other with predetermined, not fake, predetermined storylines and calling it a sport. But Zac Efron got really beefed up. I really love Jeremy Allen White. So I'm expecting acting performances to be phenomenal, and they were.
Yep, I have never cared about wrestling, although I can see the allure of it. All these guys so jacked up, the moves are really big, the personalities are really big, they're larger than life personas. The trash talking, there's the whole culture around it is. I can see the appeal of it. I get the allure. I just never got into it myself. But I've heard great things about this film as a dramatic vehicle. I haven't seen Zac Efron in much, but I've been a fan of his since High School Musical days. That was the first thing I ever saw him in as a kid.
Same.
Everybody, I guess. But yeah, I was excited to see him in something again. I haven't seen a Zac Efron movie in a long... I know he's been in a lot of stuff, just nothing I've seen. So I was excited to see him in a lead role again. And
did you see that Ted Bundy movie?
No.
It's pretty good.
No.
Or he does pretty good in it, I should say.
Yeah, I heard he was good in it. Yeah, so I had no expectations for this really whatsoever. I don't know the Von Erich family. No idea for their context in the history of professional wrestling. What happened to them. But I came out of this theater misty-eyed. I was gonna cry. I didn't cry. I've only cried at like 5 movies ever, but I came close on this one by the end. It's so rare for me. It struck a nerve. Yeah, let's get into it. This movie's sad.
It's very sad.
That's it. That's the review.
That's it. All right. You can find me
Where can
at.
we find you? Yeah.
Sad movie. No, it's just, it's like, I don't think there's a family that's had so much tragedy in their fucking life in the sports world in this family. It's so strange.
The closest comparison I could think of was Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Just in Saving Private Ryan, like all his brothers are dead, and the whole thing was, okay, we got to save Ryan because he's the last one. We can't let him die too. And this felt very similar to that. Like all these brothers and all of them just getting picked off one by one. Most of them by suicide, which is even worse.
Yeah.
It's even more tragic.
That's crazy. That's really sad, yeah.
And you know what I found out after I watched this movie? They left out a whole brother out of this movie.
Yeah.
And he died by suicide too.
It's crazy. I think they did that because I read somewhere because his suicide was, or like around his death and his injuries were kind of related to the exact same way as another brother, or they were too similar. So they just kind of mingled them into one character. So it was better for the runtime, I guess. But yeah, you left out a whole other brother.
Yeah, I know a lot of people when they watch this movie, that's a big criticism I've heard, is that they don't really buy the whole efficiency argument. They're like, well, he was a whole other brother and his stories from... Well, the thing I've heard about that brother, Chris Von Erich, is that he had very brittle bones, and he didn't have a long wrestling career because he was injured a lot, broke his bones a lot just in training during wrestling, and that always put him at a bit of a disadvantage in the family. It kind of, from what I've heard, made him feel lesser than in the family just because he couldn't physically compete like his other brothers could.
Right.
Which could have been a powerful story if they wanted to give him the runtime. It just hearing about him just makes this movie even worse because it's like, oh wow, all these brothers died. And wait, there was another one that died too?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. Looks like the curse is real.
I thought that was one of the saddest parts of the movie. Well, there's a few sad parts, like when they're at, I think it was Mike's funeral, and Kevin and Pam's like, oh, when are you going to come home? And he's like, well, like the curse, I don't want to put it on you.
Yeah.
She's
like, stop being an idiot. Like,
yeah. Well,
I love Pam as a character in this movie.
Lily James was great. But the other part that got me sad was for, I think it may have even been that funeral as well, when the mom has her funeral dress laid out and she doesn't want to put it on. And it's like, okay, just put it on. No, people are going to recognize it. And I just thought that was so sad. Like, and you're a public persona who's lost enough kids that the press could photograph you in that dress and people would recognize it. I mean, that's a sad explanation anyway, but it's just the idea that she's had to do this multiple times, and that's the justification she's trying to give herself.
That's what I thought too. It's like her real reason is like I've been to too many of my own children's funerals, but I got to come up with this like somewhat excuse to be like, oh, I can't wear this dress because everyone's gonna recognize me. Just really sad. Yeah. I full on believe this is kind of going into spoilers. Sorry, not believe, but I thought when watching the end of the movie, I thought the wife was about to shoot the dad. Because just the way the framing was set up, how she's off screen and he walks in and he's just like, what are you doing? I thought because he looked so shocked, I thought she had like a shotgun or something. But no, she's just painting because she's just I
thought she was committing suicide too.
Yeah,
because they had it off camera, and she was. Yeah. I mean, the painting was nice as a resolution because she talked earlier in the movie about how she used to be into painting and she gave that up. So that not that her character had much of an arc in the movie, but it was nice to see. Oh, okay, well, even after the death of all her kids, she returned to something that gave her joy.
Mm-hmm. Like the last thing that she knew that gave her joy. Yeah. Or that she remembers, I guess.
Yeah, this film, the way it goes is they just built up the brothers' relationship so well in the first half. You really feel the bonds between all these men, how much they love each other, how much they work their asses off to prop each other up, how good they look together in the ring, and how well they work together and feed off each other and make up for each other's lacks of strengths. Like, Carrie's the best athlete. Kevin's the one who paved the way. David's the best on the mic for the trash talking and the press tours. Like, they all... And Mike is kind of the heart of the family. He's the performer. He's really good at music, and the dad doesn't respect that. But they're all established as unique personalities, and their relationship is really good. So once David dies from what do they say? It was his liver that burst, or
intestines. So his intestines got inflamed and then burst.
Yeah. So as soon as that happened, it just set the dominoes rolling for the rest of it. And then Zac Efron's performance really makes you feel, okay, so the first few times we're stoic, just like the parents were too. We're sad, but we're going to move on. Okay, that sucks. My brother's dead, but I've still got a lot of brothers. And then by the time Carrie commits suicide, that's it. All his brothers are gone. Yeah. And that's basically when I broke too, and like, no, not Carrie too. He just spent the whole movie going from one hardship to the next. He loses his chance in the Olympics. He becomes world champion, gets his foot amputated, and he was just working his way through it. He worked his way back into the wrestling world as somebody with a disability, and was starting to do better again. Just to commit suicide like that in the end was tragic.
Yeah, it was very sad.
It was the fact that he was coming back after such hardship.
Yeah.
That's what did it for, and he was also the last brother that Kevin had. And I'm like, is Kevin even gonna live through this?
Yeah.
Jeez.
It was one of my like best, I think one of the best like moments in the movie for me was like when Zac Efron just absolutely loses it on his dad. He's like you're supposed to protect them, like you're our father, you're supposed to protect them, and then just like almost in a way almost kills him by like choking him out. You just see all the emotion that Kevin's just been building up throughout the entire movie, because let's face it, in the 70s, families weren't really allowed to feel or just like mental health wasn't really talked about that well. You were just more so just meant to, stick through it, power through. I mean, even when you hear like the small conversations between both the children to the father or even to the mother, where it's like, you got to tell dad to take it easy on my brother. He's like, well, that's between,
about that.
Yeah, talk to your brother about that. Like the parents don't know how to deal with it. They're very much just we're a sports family, and that's what we are. We don't have time for emotions. And then
we're here to support you. We're here to support you financially. We'll give you what you need to do. We'll give you jobs. We'll make sure you're like, we're gonna push you to be the very best you can be. But for emotional stuff, deal with that amongst yourselves. That's not our
yeah. And I think it's a very realistic portrayal of that as well, because it's very family. Yeah, it's a big family. It's also like a simple like dismissal of emotions, but it's so real at the same time. It's just very like, no, go talk to your brothers about it. And it's just like that, like that connection that you just don't have with your parents. And that's what makes the blow up to his at his father so powerful for me, because that's just, he's letting it all out finally. And you saw little bits of that, like when he lost the fight to Ric Flair, and he's holding on the Iron Claw too long. It's all that emotion that he can't control, because I'm not a mental health expert, but experts say like if you build up all that emotion, it'll just come out like, and you just can't control it. And that's what happened during his fight with Ric Flair, and then his fight with his dad after his final brother committed suicide. But it's just, yeah, it's a well done portrayal of both like family and tragedy, but also just mental health, and just goes to show like how important it is to have that, to have a good, strong relationship with your mental health and mental health of your family as well.
Yeah, definitely. I also think the movie is a good portrayal of, the reason it resonates with me is because of I think it's relatable enough to people who aren't even sports fans or wrestling. Just the idea of wanting to please your parents and be the best you can be to make them proud, and maybe push yourself a little too hard sometimes to do that. Not everyone's parents are as hard on them as Fritz von Erich's were to his kids, but he did turn them into big success stories with that pushing. They did all live up to their potential. They just didn't have the necessary support to deal with the problems it caused afterwards. And then it was just a snowball effect. Every further tragedy just made life harder to cope with after that. Every brother that died, you feel it impact them all even worse. It just makes everyone's mental health was pretty strained at the start, and then every death after that, it all just gets worse and worse for every one of them. And the only reason Kevin was okay was because he had Pam as his great support system. He had a baby to look out for.
Yeah, Pam basically saved his life.
Yeah,
from probably
same fate.
The same way he would go out that his brothers did. It's just really sad. Yeah.
Yeah. Although the gut punch to me was the very end of the movie, the final scene. That's what nearly made me cry, was the very end when Zac Efron's watching, when Kevin's watching his kids play in the yard and he starts crying. And then his kids come up to hug him. No, Dad, why are you crying? Oh, I'm sorry. The guys aren't supposed to cry. Well, Dad, we cry all the time. What's wrong?
I got a laugh in my theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Well, it's just, I used to be a brother.
Yeah. That was a good scene. It was like that scene and then one of the scenes before. It was like a back-to-back that got me misty-eyed when Carrie is on... He's dead, and he's in the afterlife, and then he's on the boat, and he goes to see his brothers, pays the ferryman, and then he meets his like brother who died when he was 5 years old.
Jackie.
I was like, fuck, man, like Jesus, that's like such an emotional like thing to think about, like who will be there when in the afterlife, like who will you see? And it's just like one of those things where it's like it's peaceful, it's calm. Yeah,
they were all
powerful shit.
I like how they showed them all to be at peace there.
Yeah.
But I also like the parallel to earlier in the movie where the dad's way of teaching them about how to protect themselves from life is to be the toughest, strongest, most successful, absolute best. And Kevin said, well, our mom's way was religion. And so in life, they were the toughest, strongest, most successful, absolute best, but that didn't really help their spiritual sides at all. But they seem to be a more religious family, but in the end, they get their reward in the afterlife with spiritual peace. They got their success in the physical world, and they got to have peace in the afterlife together as a family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that narration at the start sets up, okay, yeah, their dad's way worked, but their mom's way gave them everlasting peace, which is preferable.
It's bittersweet. There's only one scene that kind of threw me off because it wasn't really ever touched upon again. It was when the mom was watching TV about, I think it was during one of the Suns matches, and then you see someone sitting on the stairs, which I assume was supposed to be David, but he's out of focus, and then she turns around, doesn't see anybody, and it cuts back and nobody's on the stairs. I was like, okay, so I feel like that's like David looking over his mom, but it just never really came back.
It was kind of like when I first saw it, it nearly looked more like Michael to me, just because the next scene after that, like he was watching Carrie on TV, and the next scene after that, he tries to be a wrestler,
right,
and gets injured.
Yeah.
So I'm like, was he watching his mom watch the TV and was like, I'll try wrestling.
Yeah,
I thought Michael was also tragic because I don't know if was it just me or did he not seem quite all mentally there after his toxic shock syndrome?
No, yeah, he seemed like a little bit off. And I think I'm glad they never really brought it up in the movie because probably around that time they didn't know about like the mental effect, or the doctors would have known, but like I don't know if the actual family or even the dad would care about the mental effects of what happened to him after the toxic shock syndrome.
It did something to his brain.
Oh, you could tell in the way the actor, like the mannerisms and his whole facial expressions always changed because he was kind of like the young, like bright brother of the group, and now he just completely is just almost like kind of not there.
Yeah, he kind of became a shell, lost a level of his personality. And then there was the scene when he tries to pick up the guitar and he can't even play anymore, and use the audience member
sad.
And him can feel, well, this is the final straw for him.
That was sad. Yeah.
Like I tried to do the wrestling thing. I failed at that. I'm not all mentally here. I can't even play the guitar. Okay. I understand why you don't want to live anymore. Still awful. But the way the movie presents it, I get why you went down that road. got
Yeah.
depressed.
Yeah. The song he sang at the party was pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked it. I don't know if
That's
that's
all right.
like or an original or a whatever. It sounded pretty nice.
It's probably a cover. I don't know it specifically, but I also like the reveal that Fritz used to be a musician too. That he was a classically trained clarinetist, and then he went all in on sports. And the mom was kind of just casually tearing him down at the dinner table, like, well, he used to be more well-rounded, was basically what she was saying.
Yeah, and he kind of shuts it down like immediately. Just kind of like, well, I saw no career in it, so.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what music is. There's no career in it. It's just like Holt, the actor, Holt McClaney, plays such like he does a perfect job of just like the stubborn dad who is all about like toxic dad syndrome. Like, I don't even know what it's called, but he just plays it perfectly where it's like, I couldn't, like the perfect sports dad where it's like, I couldn't achieve what I want, so my kids are going to do it for me. If they don't like it, then they can fuck off. But they're going to carry on my legacy no matter what. And he just does the best job of it ever. And he's just so casually an asshole too. It's like, we all know Carrie's my favorite, but the ranks can always change. He just like plays it off like it's not a big deal that he's saying this shit.
Yeah. Well, I thought what was interesting about Fritz was in that very first scene, you see him as the wrestler who uses the iron claw and all that. And his wrestling persona's kind of the dickish guy. But then afterwards, when he's with his kids and his wife and he's talking about, oh man, I want to use wrestling to build a better life for my family. Don't want to be living in a trailer forever. We want to actually get him a home. He seems like a nice guy. And then you fast forward to the future. And then that's when I realized, oh, wait, he seemed to kind of adopt his wrestling persona in real life was what changed. He was a nicer guy before, but then he sort of became his character. Just leaned into it. And my reading of the movie is, I think it's called The Iron Claw because Fritz kind of metaphorically was using the iron claw on his kids their whole life. Kind of holding them under his grip. And that's yeah,
it's crazy. It's just a sad story of like a family that's on the edge of breaking, and just they have like this toxic patriarchy dad at the helm of it who in a way kind of got most of his sons killed by like pushing so much of his ambitions and his dreams onto them. Like his son just clearly wanted to play music. He wanted to have fun and be young, but he pushed him so hard that, it got him injured, and then that got to and I'm kind of like, it's weird because in terms of a movie, there wasn't really a payoff or like a confrontation for, there was like the mini confrontation that I talked about earlier, but it's just kind of like reality where it's like, well, nobody's going to go after the dad to
but that's
like, you
also
pushed
part
him
of the
to do
problem,
this.
right? He didn't pull the trigger on any of them.
Yeah.
That's the other argument. It's like I've been saying, he's the one who pushed them to be so successful in the first place. And he didn't give them the support they needed, but he kind of led them on the road to mental health struggles, but he didn't kill them. They all,
for sure,
they all made their choices in life, and he wasn't forcing them into anything. He didn't force Mike to become a wrestler or anything. It was basically just, he kind of emotionally manipulated the family in terms of, well, yeah, Mike's my least favorite. I don't see him going anywhere, but he didn't force him into anything. He didn't say, oh, you do wrestling or you're out of my house.
I think it's because, like, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like it's kind of like subtly forced that they were all forced to do wrestling because they don't want to disappoint their dad, right? because if they disappoint their dad, he's probably going to disown him. I mean, by the end of it, Kevin's like, hey, Jerry called me from the WWF and he said he can sell and he wants to buy us out. It's like, well, if you do that, then you're never coming, like, you're out of this family.
You're not welcome in these doors again,
Yeah. So it's all about, like, especially the early on years, just the emotional manipulation of, like, you're going to do this or you're basically disowned. And we never really get a conversation like that because they've probably just learned that their whole lives, where it's like, you just do as I say because I'm your father and you're going to do it. And that's how it should be. So it's like it's not physically forced, but it is, I feel like, emotionally forced and a little bit of manipulation.
Yeah. I also just think it's interesting that the kids, even right to the very end, never think their father did any wrong to them.
Yeah.
None of, like, all the kids who committed suicide, none of them blamed the father or said, oh, you pushed me too hard or anything. They're just, no, I want to go to a better place. Don't want to be here anymore. But Kevin, in the end, seemed to blame his father for it. He saw the common denominator between everything. But even by the end of the movie, he's like, well, I'm still trying to make peace with my father. I sold the business because I'm having financial problems. I need to look after my family, but he still tries to ride that line of keeping his dad happy for as long as he can. Mm-hmm. It's not, family's still family to him. With all his brothers gone,
it's the most important thing.
Yeah, with all his brothers gone, especially his parents are the only family he's got besides Pam and his kids. So it's all about the compromises. I thought it was interesting when the dad starts to drive a wedge between Kevin and David specifically. And I liked how David was never even in his face about it. He was nearly apologetic for being so good on the microphone when Kevin can't do PR for crap. It's like, well, like I saw the opportunity there and sorry. And Fritz was like, oh man, you're so good on the mic. You got to get in the ring. And like, okay, well, let's give you the title shot now. Cause you're the most popular one. You got the best crowd appeal. So you're the most charismatic. Let's move you up. And like, don't worry, boys, you guys will get a chance too later. But right now, he's our best shot at getting a heavyweight title.
And I like how the movie portrayed the relationship between all the brothers, because they still have their little scraps here and there, but they still like all love each other so much because they've probably shared with each other everything about each other. So even like the conversations between David and Eric are really well done. Especially where it's like you said, it was like, I wasn't trying to take your position or anything. I just did what I thought would be best. And then they come to like an understanding. And then that stuff was really well done.
Like at the wedding.
It was my favorite parts of the movies. Yeah, the wedding as well.
When Kevin and David are talking and there's like blood in the toilet in the background behind them.
Yeah. You really have to look for it too, because it never really cuts away from just that shot.
No,
it's really
but
well done.
See, if you're looking in the background, you see the specks of blood on there. I'm like, okay, that's interesting filmmaking.
You should see a doctor.
Yeah. And I just like how they kind of made amends at that moment. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm happy for you, actually. You're getting the shot. I'm just, wish it could have been me, because wrestling was my thing for the longest time.
Yeah.
I also liked how the filmmaking foreshadowed most of the deaths. Like with David's death, the last thing we see of him is at the wedding with what was that song? Thank God I'm a Country Boy. The music slowly fades out with the shot staying specifically on David. I'm like, oh, the music's fading out, and so is the scene crossfading with him as the focus. That means he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, like the blood in the toilet was a giveaway, but the fact that it faded out specifically on him to the next scene, like, oh, the music's dying, the shot's dying out, he's fading out, he's done.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew he'd be the first one to go.
Yeah, and then with Michael, it was also the acting, the guitar, things like that. It was, oh, okay, I can see where you're going. With Carrie, like, oh, drinking and driving. Okay, you took that drink out. I'm gonna go out for a drive. I'm like, okay, you didn't spell it out, but I know something bad's gonna happen to you with that. I didn't really think of anything when he gave the dad that gun that he didn't fire. But as soon as they got back to the country house later on, I'm like, oh, he's gonna shoot himself with that gun, isn't he?
Yeah.
Damn it.
I thought something bad was going to happen with that gun because they focused so much on it, but I didn't think it was going to happen to Carrie. I thought he was going to like shoot his dad or like have a confrontation with his brother, like a drunken rage, or I didn't think he was good. And then I realized the phone call conversation with him in the hotel and and Eric was not Eric. Is it Eric? There's so many brothers. Kevin.
Carrie? Or Kevin, Zac Efron.
Carrie and Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That conversation, I was like, he's probably going to kill himself.
Yeah. I was just surprised he made it to the farmhouse.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, come to the farmhouse tomorrow morning. We'll make Mom make pancakes and talk it out.
Yeah, it was also like, hey, you got to find Carrie. Or just talking to his dad. He's like, you got to find Carrie. You got to track him down. He's not doing well. And then just the dad, just again, he's like, you boys work it out on your own. It's like, your son's in turmoil, dude. Like, your son's threatening to kill himself.
You just
don't care
how bad it is.
And you're just in denial. It just goes to show it just goes to show like how bad it was back then.
Yeah, you think you take it a bit more threats of suicide a bit more serious when multiple of your kids have done it already?
Yeah, it's insane. It's just how it goes to show just how blind the father was in terms of an emotional state.
And the mother too. She was a more passive personality.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Still,
yeah.
But still, the father was pretty overbearing, but she still, whatever he did, she condoned.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? The fights were great. Mm-hmm. All the wrestling fights were electric. They were really well choreographed.
I was a little worried because the beginning was very like shaky cammy and very up close. So I was like, is this going to be the entire movie? But it wasn't. Yeah, the action's really well done. For the most part, it looked like at least Jeremy Allen White and Zac Efron did most of their stunts.
Yep.
Or at least the jump rope stuff.
Yeah, I saw a talk show with Jeremy Allen White. I think it was on Seth Meyers, and he talked about having to get up on the ropes and do the stunts. He said they had 2 months to train for the movie.
That's wild.
Which is pretty crazy. I think they did really well. What I like about the choreography in it is that when the camera's all up close on them, you can see they're pulling their punches and stuff, but I'm also, okay, this is the camera trying to tell us it's not really real fighting. There's like, he is hitting him. They are physically hurting themselves. Like there was that scene where, what was his name? Harley Race slammed Kevin into the ground. He's like, I've never hit the ground that hard before. They do get hurt. It is real in many ways, just even though the end is predetermined. But yeah, I just like how even though when the fighting was fake, it still worked. Like, okay, we can film this. The actors are pulling their punches, but that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it goes to they also like treat the sport with respect as well, because everybody knows the stigma against wrestling, but for like the wrestling fans, they do show the behind the scenes where it's like the tag team with David and Kevin, and they're talking to the two other guys like, so I'm going to do this move, and then he's going to tag in and all that. But it's just like treated as like a quick, like, okay, and that's what we're going to do. And then you see the fight play out, and it's done really well. So for the real wrestling fans out there, they get to see a little bit behind the scenes, but you still get to see like the pain that the brothers went through. I mean, there's like the shot where like they're all doing steroids and Kerry's just covered in blood all over his face. It's wild. Like, yes, like predetermined. It's not like the most phenomenal thing in terms of sports to watch, but these are still like supremely physical athletes doing this, and
what
it's
I
insane
liked was,
the type of stuff they can do.
What made me see it in a different light was when Kevin had that explanation to Pam when she called it fake, and he was like, "No. See what it is. We're not winning the fights based on our physical prowess, but the real competition is how do we perform? How does the audience react to us? Because if they really like you, you keep moving up the ladder. If you get to face somebody of a higher position, that's basically a job promotion just because the audience reacted to you so strongly. Heavyweight champion isn't a matter of skill. It's a popularity contest. Like, do you react well with the crowd? Are you really good at showing off the moves and like using your body performatively and like jumping off the ropes, or how you slam the guys or pump up the crowd? Like that's what wrestling's all about. Or I guess even the PR bits of it count too, as part of the popularity contest, which is why Kevin never made it as far as the others, because he didn't, like, he was a good performer in the ring, but he was never, based on this movie anyway, as good at hyping the crowd up as his other brothers were.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a large part of the point. He's a very stoic individual, pretty stone-faced a lot of the time, keeps his emotions more close to his sleeve and doesn't emote as much as the others, which doesn't make him as popular in his chosen profession. That's based on his own explanation anyway. But it made me see it in a different light that way. It's like, oh, okay, so this is what wrestling's really about. It's all about who heavyweight champion is really who's entertaining people the most.
Yeah.
Which I can still get behind.
Yeah, I like that. I liked all the like small behind the scenes stuff with the wrestling, because that's really what like sports biopics should do, is pull back the curtain a little bit. Not all the way, but like a little bit, just to show how things work. And yeah, and I love that explanation he gives to Pam. It's just so simple, where it's like, well, it's just like a job promotion. It's it's just a matter of like how good you are. Yeah, it's really well done. Simplifies it for the unknown.
Exactly. I also like the physicality Zac Efron brought to the part. He was really, really stunning in the ring, but I also liked the his wedding scene when he was dancing. Like, I'm looking at everybody's dancing, and I'm like, Zac Efron can dance. He's pretty smooth at this.
He pulls it off so well. Like,
it just seems like that. I'm like, just the physicality of the Kevin character in the ring or even on the dance floor. He's bringing a lot. Like, even though his face is mostly, like, he has a stony face for most of the movie, but he acts a lot with his eyes and his body in this role, which is tailored to this specific character, I think. But he's very well done in it. Brings a lot of personality out. Not through his voice, but just how he looks.
Yeah, this is definitely his best performance by far. You know, it just goes to show the type of acting chops he really has in his back pocket. Not his most iconic, but, his best performance by far.
Yeah. Jeremy Allen White was great too. I mean, they all were, really.
Yeah, he was good. I'm such a fan of him that I wish he had more to do. Like, I wish he had more scenes, just kind of interacting with the brothers, because it felt like, I don't know, but maybe that's also probably the character where, maybe Kevin had more of a relationship with David or Michael and not so much with Carrie, but it just felt like you get such like a big name like Carrie. I just feel like you need like one or two more scenes to really show the bond between him and Kevin, but also there's a lot to go over as well. I mean, they cut a whole brother for runtime, so
that's true.
Who knows what else they cut?
Yeah, I thought all the performances were very good. There's a lot of good visual storytelling in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way you see things play out, especially the stuff in the ring. Like, okay, yeah, there's some good stuff here. But one element of the movie I liked was going back to pulling the behind the scenes curtains. Was that even in that fight with Ric Flair when he's got the iron claw on him for too long, Ric Flair in the dressing room afterwards was, hey, man, that was a good fight. Well, I'll rematch you anytime. That's good. Or there was a couple other guys where they fought the same. I think there was part of a montage where they were kicking each other's asses in the ring and then having beers after.
Yeah, that was really funny.
In the ring, it's intense. We're fighting. We're acting like warriors here. Afterwards, okay, we're supposed to be enemies on the show, but we're just having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked
really
all the behind the scenes of that stuff. It kind of reminded me of the beginning of Rocky, where he's in that first fight, and then like behind this, as soon as that first fight ends, he's in the same locker room with the guy he just fought. The guy who headbutted him and he just like beat the crud out of. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Was it Spider? I think that's what his name. I don't remember
his name now. Let's see. I thought the movie was paced well. I was never bored. Never felt overly long.
No,
it just felt okay. I'm locked into this. It felt exactly as long as it needed to be. I also thought the filmmaking and editing were good. The editing, I thought, found a good balance between it was kinetic. It was things were always moving, but it never felt breakneck, like it's going too fast.
Yeah.
It was a nice medium for pacing and cutting. That all is good. Let's see.
Yeah. It was funny because it was like 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Something like that.
Didn't feel like that at all. I liked how it wasn't fast paced, but it was just smoothly told. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And smooth too is a good way to put it. Well, yeah, I think another thing about this movie with this family in particular is I think this family is pretty easy to get people behind, not just because of their tragedy, which you want to empathize with, but if you just look at them on paper, these Von Erichs are clean-cut, good American boys from Texas.
Gladiators.
Yeah, they're in perfect physical form. They're great athletes. They don't seem to have too many vices. They're nice guys, popular in their community. They're like the American ideal. Really, they're what every American parent wants their kid to end up being, it seems like.
Yeah. 100%. And I think that's what adds to tragedy as well, right? Like they're the perfect American family, but they have all this behind the scenes stuff that goes on with them mentally, and it just all comes crashing down. So it just adds more weight to the story, I feel, especially for Americans, I would assume.
Because on the surface, they're the American dream. Yeah, on the surface, they're the American dream, but then there's how much did we have to mentally sacrifice to get that dream?
Yeah, Right.
That's the part of the story you don't usually see. You just hear, work hard, you'll get success. Okay, but there's more to that.
Wrong.
Well,
yeah.
right, but also it takes a toll.
Well, it's not like the only thing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, it's, I don't have much more to say. I don't, yeah. I like that the film was dedicated to the brothers, at the very end of the credits there. In loving memory to all of them. I didn't happen to see if Chris's name was in there.
I didn't see, no. I couldn't tell.
That would kind of suck if he wasn't, even though he wasn't in the movie, but I don't remember now.
Was that after the main credits, or is that right at the beginning?
No, it was after it was credits are at the very end, and that was
I didn't stick around for that, so
yeah,
I couldn't tell you.
That was the end. Yeah. So I saw some promotional stuff. I think it may have even been Jeremy Allen White's interview where they were asking him, "Oh, so what did Kevin Von Erich have to say about all this?" And they said, "Well, he didn't really have anything to do with the production. Apparently, he wasn't even consulted about very much of it."
Wow.
Which is a little weird, but apparently what he did say was he'd be okay with the movie as long as they showed how much he and his brothers loved each other. That was his main thing. He's like, whatever you do, just make sure you get that right.
And I think they nailed it. Well, from what we could tell.
Definitely. That's the best part of the movie was the brothers' relationship and their whole family dynamic.
Yeah, I think it was the best brother relationship captured on film that we've seen in a while. So
for sure.
It was well done. And I'm sure they had little spats over their lives, but that's not what they want to show in the movie, right? And I can understand why, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if you felt this way, but I know for me, both of us have brothers, and it's easy enough to empathize with that situation. I don't know how I'd cope if my brother died.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
He's my favorite person in the world, and even though I don't talk to him all the time, I can't even fathom it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just
an absolute tough situation to lose not even just one, but all your brothers.
Yeah.
Couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. It's just, it's hard when it comes to sibling relationships like that. I know there's some families where the siblings are further apart, maybe not as close, but I think when it comes to brotherly relationships, it's well, yeah, mom and dad are a lot older than us, and they're probably going to die before us. And there's going to come a point where you're the only person I can talk to about our childhood mutually. Or even it's in the movie, right? It's well, if you have a problem, don't talk to your parents, talk to your brother. A lot of it, my childhood was like that. Yeah, I talked to my parents about a lot, but my brother's the one I can really talk with, and because he gets me on a more on a peer-to-peer level. It's yeah, I can tell my parents stuff, but they'll only understand so much. My brother always gets full context for everything. He's oh, yeah, no, yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, your siblings are usually the ones you can share almost 100% of everything with.
Yeah. Not that I'm trying to hide anything, but it's yeah, mom and dad, you just don't have the context. You don't necessarily know the people I'm talking about. My brother went to school with some of the people I'd be complaining about back in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the problem was, he's more right there into it. He's got, yeah. So those relationships are very important, and I think anyone with a sibling can relate to this movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because I think a sibling is like, I feel bad for people who don't have siblings. Like they grow up an only child, because it is like kind of, there's your relationship with your parents, but there's like the relationship with your siblings, probably the most important one that you'll ever have. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the one person you grow up with, and you learn from each other and share with each other everything. And
I find only children are a lot of times they're very close to their parents, and that's great. But I just find having siblings, it pushes your character in a different way. You have to learn socialization even at a younger age. Even have to learn conflict resolutions more. Oh, you borrowed my stuff. Oh, you're pissing me off. Let's end in a fist fight. Oh, now we have to know fist fighting's bad because we both got punished for it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it may be, it's just you gotta help each other in a way. Like your parents can put all attention on you, but it's just, yeah, that's just kind of the funny thing, right? Like your parents can put all attention on you, and they're gonna give you all their good parts, and they're also gonna give you all their bad parts. But I found with me and my brother, it's, yeah, okay, our parents are giving us all their good parts and all their bad parts as well. But I also have somebody else in the household to be like, I'm okay, so that was unfair, right? Like it's like I don't just have to take this stuff at face value. I can talk amongst somebody else and be like, okay, so was this fair? Like, am I being too much like my parents in a good way or a bad way? And you see it too, right? Like the way, like what mom said, is that okay? Okay, no, you agree? She was overreacting? Good. Not just me? Okay. So it's...
Yeah.
I feel like with single children, sometimes it's harder to internalize those. Like you internalize those things more because you don't have a sounding board who's right there.
Yeah, you don't have like a second opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm overgeneralizing, but it's an important relationship.
For sure.
And this movie handled it very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good message. Well, yeah. It's just a good showing of the relationship that siblings have with each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think The Iron Claw is a must-see movie, especially if you want to feel something.
Sad.
Yeah. Good luck getting through the movie dry-eyed. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. People need to see challenging things sometimes.
Yeah,
that are actually
I agree.
Good. So, yeah. That's The Iron Claw. Where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at Ryan Walker Official on YouTube, TikTok, and on Instagram.
And also in the ring.
Nope.
Sort of.
I'm not going to be there anytime soon.
not the wrestling ring, but you are kind of in a ring.
It's not a ring. Plug your socials.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at ThoughtPlay Media. Also, check out the Close Up with Ryan and Joe Facebook page for latest updates on the show. If you listen to us in audio, check out our YouTube channel. And if you're on YouTube, find us anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. We hope to see you on the next Close Up with Ryan and Joe, where we'll probably do a leisure list. Stay tuned. Till next time.
Take care.